All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Kerry Garrison with Multicopter Warehouse, and today we're going to talk about the Phantom 4 Multispectral, the Phantom 4 drone specifically designed for agricultural analysis. What I'd like to see here, if you guys are in the, if you can go into the questions box there, and let me know what your background in agriculture is. I'd be very interested to see who we have on this call and what type of application that you're looking for to use a product like the P4 Multispectral. While you guys get those typed in there, I'll go ahead and kind of get the ball rolling here. The P4 Multispectral is a Phantom 4 based platform that is designed to gather plant level data using a multispectral camera. It's a high precision drone that integrates RTK positioning with a multispectral camera to deliver agricultural analysis data. That's the best way of putting it. Okay, Robert, good, just learning. Okay, yeah, you know what? We're seeing a lot of interest in cannabis and hemp. A lot of people trying to maximize crop yields and things with it. It's going to be very interesting to see how these new types of crops and new technology kind of come together for efficiency. So what is the Phantom 4 RTK, or the Phantom 4 Multispectral? We'll start with the aircraft itself. The aircraft and the controller are basically the same as the Phantom 4 Pro version 2. Has 27 minutes of flight time and about a 4.3 mile range using the OcuSync transmission protocol. Oh, Brian, interesting. Our agronomist for golf course irrigation. Very cool. Probably a great use for that. So it's nice in a compact system with RTK capabilities for high precision positioning and mapping, so that you can get your mapping data down to very, very tight resolution. Very good for precision agriculture and certain types of environmental monitoring. Not everybody is going to need that high level of accuracy on their maps, but if you do, it is fully capable of doing that. And let's take a look at the camera system itself. It actually is made up of 6 cameras, all in a stabilized gimbal. You have a standard RGB camera, a blue, a green, a red edge, near infrared, and they're all 2 megapixel with a global shutter. So you get a wide variety of data with every shot. So very interesting tool. Before the P4 Multispectral, in order to kind of do the same level of information, you would need to spend like $12,000 plus just on a sensor to go on something like a Matrice 200, Matrice 300, something like that. It would take a pretty high level machine with a very, very expensive sensor. So you'd be typically looking in the $25,000 to $30,000 price range to get into something like this. And with this system, you're looking in the sub $10,000 range for a system that, like I said, was just not even available on the market for even double that price just a couple years ago. So it's a very interesting product that is very mission specific. You're not going to go and do agriculture one day with this thing and then go do cinematography the next day. It's just not the right machine for the job. It is an agricultural type machine. And if you look on the top of it, there is this little RTK antenna on there, but it also has an integrated spectral sunlight sensor. And this enables the system to capture the solar irradiance, which will maximize the accuracy and consistency of the data. So regardless of the time of day that you're flying, it will calibrate itself to the amount of sunlight that's coming in and be able to give you a higher level of data versus just the without the sensor. Is the RGB sensor the same 20 megapixel from the Pro? No, it is not. The specs say that all of the sensors are 2 megapixels. So there's nothing special about the RGB sensor. It is a fairly small sensor to fit in with this 6-camera platform. So when you're flying, you can have both an RGB and an NDVI feed. I don't really know why you'd want to see the NDVI in real time, but you absolutely can. If you need to be able to switch between the two for a normalized difference vegetation index, which is NDVI, or the live RGB feed to kind of visualize where the attention is needed. And this helps you make targeted decisions. So using this technology, what you're able to do is see different aspects of a field or a crop. Be able to see, is there enough water? Is there enough fertilizer? Is there, potential bug damage? You're kind of looking at the health of the plant itself, not just a thermal image. So it provides a much more detailed view of the plant itself versus the heat reflected off the plant that a thermal sensor would do, which can give you some information, but NDVI gives you significantly more information on the plant itself. So it can be very useful for a ton of different applications. A couple of years ago, we were working with Kansas State University when they were just starting to get into what this type of capability would mean for agriculture. And what they told us was that they projected that this type of technology would, over the next 2 to 5 years, be able to increase crop production by around 10 to 15% while reducing costs significantly, and over the next 5 to 10 years could increase crop yield by as much as 25% with an even greater reduction in cost. And you're getting that reduction in cost because you can do micronutrients, micropesticides. You can really target problem areas without having to treat an entire field. You can also see how is the irrigation running, how is the water runoff, where is something getting more water than something else, do you have dry spots and wet spots. So you can really maximize the efficiency of a crop using this type of technology. So it really gives you a lot of information to help improve efficiency, productivity, crop yields, and reduce costs. Now, as I did mention, it does have a RTK system built into it. That's real-time kinetic, giving you a real-time accurate positioning of the aircraft along with the data being captured on images. So when you process the data in something, you're really getting this high level of accuracy, really helping you to position your data accurately on the face of the planet. So you don't need to do that all the time, but if you do, again, the RTK is going to work. And there's a couple different ways of utilizing that RTK positioning. You can either add the DJI DRTK2 base station, which is kind of a plug-and-play solution with this machine, maybe lay out a couple ground control points, and or you can use like an existing network, NTRIP, Trimble VRS, TopCon's TopNet network. If you're already using one of those networks, you can continue to use that directly with this platform. There's also some third-party base stations from companies like Trimble and TopCon that can act as NTRIP servers, in which case they can provide that positioning data for you. Went the wrong way. So a couple of the key applications here. The first one being precision agriculture. So, Aaron, can you mute your phone?
Sure.
So
what would you like?
Throughout the growing seasons, there's a lot of noise coming from your phone. Throughout the growing season, multispectral imagery is helpful to professionals by giving them information that's invisible to the human eye, and that's across the electromagnetic spectrum. So that not just reflectivity, but a lot of other data that you can get by using these very specific red, green, blue, red edge, and green edge cameras. You can get a lot of information back along with the near infrared camera that's on there. So that's part of what NDVI is. If you're not familiar with the phrase NDVI, you should probably look it up. It's not just a single thing. It's almost a concept of a lot of different things that you can do with crop analysis. So it enables you to make really informed, timely decisions on the crop health and treatment. You know, do you need, like I said before, do you need pesticides, herbicides, water, different nutrients and things to make that crop more productive, and being able to put it right where it needs to be. So instead of having the big crop duster come in and just blast the entire field, we're going to see more uses of drone sprayers like the DJI Agris or similar products that you can take the data from the tool like this, figure out a plan of attack, and just go out and spot spray what needs to be done. The P4 Multispectral is also used in environmental monitoring and inspection, so enabling plants to be smarter, more efficient using multispectral data. So we're seeing this being used to monitor forest health, measure biomasses, map shorelines, riparian vegetation, and other types of ecosystems that the multispectral data can be really useful for. So that's kind of the aircraft and the system and kind of what it's used for. Now, the big question we always get is, well, how do I use it? Well, that is another product, and there's two. I'm going to talk about two different ways of processing the data. The first is DJI Terra. And DJI Terra is a product from Terra, or from DJI called Terra, that is a mission planner and analysis tool. So you capture, analyze, and visualize everything with DJI Terra. You use it to create the mission profile, the map layout that you are going to go run, and then it can control the aircraft and go do its thing. And you come back, you dump the data to it, and then you can analyze all the data. There are a couple of different types of missions that it can do. Waypoint missions, which more point-to-point lines, flight paths, really not useful in doing crops, but this can be useful for doing shorelines or very narrow green belts, things that you can capture in kind of one flight path over a irregular surface. So you can control the parameters like altitude, speed, pitch angle, aircraft heading, and other few mission parameters. And this allows for really complex and tight missions, but in a kind of not a straight line, but a linear progression. The more standard one is going to be area mission planning. So this is going to allow you to lay out a grid over an area for it to go fly. Very similar to what we would do to create a 3D map of something. And you can actually create a 3D model using the system. You can adjust the angle of the camera to give more detail on sides versus straight up and down, depending on what you're trying to actually accomplish. Robert, that is a great question. With the aircraft being a Phantom, is there a way to exchange cameras rather than purchase another aircraft? So the answer is no, because it is not a Phantom. It is a Phantom size with some similarities, mainly being that it uses OcuSync, and that's pretty much it. Internally, it's quite different because of the RTK positioning system that's in there and different ways that it works with the compass to enable the RTK. So the internals are actually quite different than a standard P4 Pro. So unfortunately, you can't just buy a multispectral camera and throw it on a P4 Pro. That's not going to work. So a little unfortunate there, but yeah, they're only very similar from the outside. Internally, they're quite different. I would say it's definitely more akin to the Phantom 4 RTK, which is again very different than the P4 Pro because it also has the RTK system built into it. The other type of mission is Oblique, being able to create automated flight missions around roads and railways. You simply draw a line on the map, adjust the settings to the total area map, and you can choose between creating high-definition 2D maps or 3D models or quick overviews. So generally, flying crops, we're going to be using the area mission planner. It also has corridor missions. Again, this one may not be overly useful for crops, but this can be very useful for irrigation canals, drainage canals, things where it's wider than you can get on one flight, like we would use with the Waypoint missions, because each section can have a grid on it, so you can get a much wider area along a corridor than you could with the Waypoint mission. The Waypoint's going to fly a single path along that line, so it's only as wide as the aircraft or the camera can capture in one shot. The corridor mission allows a lot more flexibility in the width of that corridor. So this is going to be definitely more useful for looking at how a river is corroding or eroding the riverbank, or how a river is flowing through an area, things of that nature. Now, the other way of processing the data is through a other piece of software called Pix4D Field. Now, I should mention that DJI Terra is a subscription service, just like Pix4D is, but you get 1 year of DJI Terra with the cost of the system. Where Pix4D Fields is going to cost you some money right out of the gate. So depending on your use case, and you really need to look at the two pieces of software and see which one is going to fit your needs better than another one. One may have certain reports or certain features that the other one doesn't, and if Terra is the one that's going to work best for you, well then great, because you get it for free for a year. But if Pix4D Fields is going to be the one, then we can talk to you about the pricing on that. And Pix4D has some pretty cool features in it for doing fast mapping. You can get some basic data very, very quickly, just in minutes, in the office or in the field. No internet access is required. You do need like a Windows 7 or better machine, or maybe it's a Windows 10 machine now, to process the data. But it's not cloud-based. You can do it right there in the field. You can create different indices using a predefined list of known agricultural ones, or create your own index formula so you can understand your plant stress better. So let's see, who asked about this? This was Robert who asked earlier. So we had a customer ask if we could determine the sex of the different hemp plants. Well, hell if I know. I don't know anything about hemp plants and what characteristics a male plant might have over a female plant. So I can't tell you if that would work. You would have to do some testing and figure out if that would work. But there's other types of things that you can do to look at different things that are going on with the crop. And again, these terms in here, NDVI, LCI, MCARI, NDRE, I'm not an agricultural expert. I know the hardware, but me trying to explain what some of these agricultural indices are, it's kind of beyond my scope. This is some pretty high-level farming stuff that is kind of outside of my wheelhouse. But I'm trying to I'll do my best to explain what the software can do. Another feature is being able to zonate and prescribe. So you can aggregate the information from the indexes into different zones and apply application rates. So this is where you can figure out what's going on with the field and figure out what you want to do to it to make corrections to the crop. So really helps in being able to plan out kind of a plan of attack on it. Here's a shot that shows how you can compare different types of information. We've got the NDVI information on the left and RGB data on the right. You can do these different comparisons, or not just between the two cameras, but you could do it over time and see how things have changed over a period of time. So I can definitely see where that could be extremely useful. And Pix4D Field obviously allows you to do things like do measurements and make annotations so you can measure important areas. Now, I've seen this feature being used to analyze a fire that had occurred in a crop, and they needed an accurate analysis of the square footage of the burn area for insurance purposes. And this was a great way of doing it. So they had the tool, they flew it, they got the data, and were able to collect on their insurance extremely accurately, more so than basically ever before. So it gives you a lot of flexibility for different types of applications. So what are some of the different things that Pix4D Fields can do? Again, it can just do your basic ortho mosaics, your field boundaries, vegetation index maps, prescription maps, zonation maps, and create digital surface models, create 3D models for the different things so you can actually see terrain and how that's flowing, which can help plan irrigation, water runoff, drainage, and things of that nature. So versus just going up with a Phantom 4 or some other aircraft that just has an RGB camera, the multispectral gives you not only the RGB data, but it gives you a whole wealth of other information that you just can't get, again, any other way except for spending a lot of money. So when we're talking about moving into Matrice 210 with the slant range system, the batteries, everything, you're looking at a system that's going to run in the $35,000 range versus this machine, which you are up and running and being able to do some pretty large areas for under $10,000, and even less if you don't need the RTK2 base station. Then it can drop a couple $1,000s more. So basically under 8,000, and you can have a very good agricultural platform. Now, who's buying this? There's a couple different types of individuals that are buying this particular system right now. I'm just going to go ahead and go to my last slide here so you have our contact information up. The first one is farmers. Sure, the farmers are buying it. They've got someone on staff that understands NDVI analysis who can go up and fly the field and present the data so that they can decide what they want to do. The other group is farm consultants or agricultural consultants who are going out and taking the equipment out, doing the flights, and then providing the farmer with the data and the information that he needs to make informed decisions. Now, the other thing that we're seeing is we have consultants that are having the farmer buy the equipment. So each farm has its own equipment on property, and the consultant goes out and flies the field and then analyzes the data for them, and then leaves, goes to the next site where they have data. So in that case, often those type of consultants are essentially resellers for us, where they're getting a commission for selling the hardware, and then they're charging for their time to go out and do the mission and analyze the data. And in some cases, the farmer or someone on staff is doing the flight, and the consultant comes in to analyze the data for them. So I'm sure there's probably other scenarios in there that, I haven't seen or heard of or thought of, but those are kind of the three different ways people are acquiring the data with this machine right now. So I didn't want to go like heavily in depth into what is NDVI and all the different types of data because it's just mind-boggling stuff. And if you don't kind of already have a grasp of that, it's not something you're going to learn in a 1-hour webinar. It's going to be like a week-long class. Okay, JP, good question. How does it compare to Slant Range 4P or Centera's 6X system? And the short answer to that is it compares very favorably in terms of the data acquisition, the accuracy, and the resolution. I do believe one of the new Centeras is higher resolution now. And the question is, when you're doing this, what level of resolution do you actually need? So is a 2 megapixel camera going to give you actionable data, or do you need a 20 megapixel camera to give you actionable data? And when we're talking about a crop or a field, you really don't need that high of level of resolution. You're typically looking at a small area, not an individual plant. If you're down to that level, you're probably wasting a bit of time delving into that level of detail on a large crop. Typically, would you see poor, too much water, or not enough water, or not enough nitrogen, or all the other things that can happen, bug damage and things. You're never looking at an individual plant. You're looking at a small area, but hopefully not a large area. Hopefully you're catching it early and you're finding a small area, and that's what you're going to go treat, not down to like the stem of a plant. So higher resolution isn't necessarily that important. Brian's asking, is it still images only or video also? And while I do believe it can record video, it's not it wouldn't be great because a 2 megapixel camera is only, I think that would be a 720p video that you would get out of that. So you're not going to get, even 1080 or 4K video off of it. The sensor is just way too small to provide really quality video. So you're typically just working with the stills, and you're really virtually never looking at an individual picture. You're taking usually hundreds of images and using software like Terra or Pix4D Field to stitch them together into something usable. So yeah, like I said, this isn't going to be a multi-use platform that you're going out and doing your crop analysis with and then going back and flying the same area for marketing videos. It's just not the right thing. So that's kind of the basic primer on the Phantom 4 Multispectral. Those are some pretty good questions there. If you have anything else, be sure and contact us at enterprise@multicopterwarehouse.com, and one of our enterprise support reps can get back to you, get you some additional information. If you're looking at picking one of these up, they can definitely get you started on that. Or if you have one and you'd like to maybe take a look at Pix4D Field, we can look into possibly getting you a demo license for that. So thanks for joining, everybody. Really appreciate you guys taking your time to jump on here. Be sure and go to multicopterwarehouse.com/events to see all the upcoming webinars that we have. We have some really, really cool ones that are coming. We are doing a big focus this summer and into the fall here on mapping. So we're going to be looking at other products to do regular mapping with, like the Autel Evo 2 Pro, the Matrice 300 RTK, some basic workflow when it comes to mapping, and doing a lot of things around mapping, as it has been the hot topic that everyone's been requesting for a while. So again, thanks for joining me, everyone. Really appreciate you spending the time. Check us out on YouTube at Multicopter Warehouse, and you can see all of our past webinars that we've done, and multicopterwarehouse.com/events to see all of the upcoming webinars. I'll talk to you later, everybody, and take care.